Hey guys, I'm learning TFT and I'm sharing my learnings with you so that you can learn effectively and I can learn better in the process as well. In this video, I'm going to go through two separate conversations, one with Grea, who does a detailed 14.1b meta breakdown and going through every single comp that he sees at the highest levels of play that he's playing at. And then a second part of this video, which is a conversation between me and Marcel P, where we go into my assessment of the meta-analysis report, which for the most part aligns mostly with Grea and with a lot of more nuance in the analysis process. So the first part's going to be with Grea. This was part of TFT Coaching Plus program that Asa runs. We have discussion groups with top pro players. This is going to be more high level. And the second part of the conversation is a coaching session between me and Marcel, which is part of Project Mentor. And that conversation dives into more of the nitty gritty and nuances of certain comps and some of my blind spots with them. And the last part of Grea's talk, he also answers some Q&A questions that Asa and I had as well. So if you want to jump to certain parts of the video, check out the timestamp in the description below. I'll include timestamps to different parts of the video, different comps, as well as reference which parts are Grea doing the talk versus Marcel and I. I hope you enjoy this video, and thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. I hope that this helps you understand 14.1b a lot more.
First comp I want to talk about, pretty popular, Vertical Exotech. You may have seen this if you've been playing. Base level 8 board is just 7 Exotech. Who am I missing? Fury. And Kindred. So a few things about this comp. If I can find the Exo items. Not all Exotech items are made equally. There are good ones and bad ones. So the really good ones are Flux Capacitor and Pulse Stabilizer. And the worst ones are Cyber Coil and Hollow Bow. Hyperfangs is like pretty mediocre, but not as bad as Hollow Bow, and then the other two are just like fine tank ones. They're solid. I would say this is a fairly Exotech item dependent comp, as in if you have like really good items, it's great to play it. If you have like kind of mid items, like say, like one really good one really bad one middling, that's fine. And if you have like all really bad ones, you probably would not want to play this. So this is kind of the default board. You do play around Jhin and Zeri. Itemized duo carry, so Kindred kind of gives traits to both. It's a lot of value. If you have a +1 and/or you reach 9, you can start adding legendaries. Aurora is just a very powerful unit, probably the best unit in the game right now. Diego is very good and also gives techie. And then if you get an early Garen or you just have a Garen too, definitely can play him and start stacking the mods. You don't need to play 7 Exotech, however. In particular, if the 7th item, like the highest tier item, is really weak, your first two items are strong. You can, for example, just come in 5 Exo and play other good units. Note about Hollow Bow. This item is very weak if your unit cannot spell crit. So in the case that you do have Hollow Bow and want to use it, you want to pair it with either like Pulse Stabilizer or Infinity Edge, or maybe like Jeweled Gauntlet if you're playing Varus, or if you have like Piercing Lows or something, that's fine. But this item loses pretty much all of its value if your unit does not have spell crit. Note on Zeri itemization, Ginsu is obviously really good on her. If you have Flux Capacitor, it has great synergy with that. Even if you don't, it's still a great item on her. But unlike the vertical Bastion Zeri builds you've seen, Gunblade is not the best item on her. It's fine, you can still build it. It's not going to be bad, but you would prefer to just have another damage item. As mentioned earlier, Pulse Stabilizer is amazing. If you have this combination, you definitely want to try to put both of them on your main carry. So Your end goal is Zeri with Stabilizer and Flux Capacitor, and then Ginsu is a good +1. Otherwise, just any other like damage item is good. GS, Deathblade, Infinity Edge is fine, stuff like that. Another note, so the Exotech trait gives your units health and attack speed for each item equipped, and at 7 is quite a lot, 225 health, 9% attack speed. This does count loose components, so even if you have loose components in your bench that you might not want to slam into completed items, you can still equip them for quite a bit of value. Of course, if you don't have too many removers, that can bite you in the long run. And because of this feature where your Exotech units get a lot of stats just from having items equipped, having a lot of items is in this comp. It doesn't mean you need them. Like, you don't need an item augment, for example, but it can be very strong. You really do want to play for a Jhin Zeri duo carry. Even Jhin 2 is just very strong and can even outdamage Zeri 2. Jhin items are just like AD items. Like, IE is great, Deathblade GS. I mean, you don't have to be too picky. Stuff like Ginsu is not the best, but it's fine. You know, Runans, all of that stuff is fine. Mana on Sejuani is very good, as you may know. Vow is her best item, but unlike some other comps where you're playing Sejuani, you actually do want to itemize Sejuani as like a 3-item tank. The extra stats she gets from Exotech really allow her to actually tank effectively and often cast multiple times. And is there anything else I want to say about the Exo items? I mean, I guess I can briefly talk about Hyperfangs. This is mainly a melee carry item, just like by what it does. So if you're like rerolling the Fury, it's really good for her. It's not the best on like backline carries because a lot of the value is kind of in Omnivamp, which kind of gets lost. And you probably would not want to put this on your main carry if you can help it, but sometimes you can't help it. And I guess one last thing, Sejuani positioning is the main thing you're looking for. She ults at her current target in a big like 3 hex radius, so it kind of depends on how they're positioned, but generally if you can like have her in the general vicinity of their backline carry, you can try to stun them. And I think that's all I have to say about this. Next I want to talk about Nitro. So Nitro. So you didn't know the Nitro stacks, it actually doesn't show here, but it's 2, 3, 4, 7. And 7 is 4-star, which is like pretty unrealistic, but the main thing is the difference between 2 and 3-star Nitro is not that huge in terms of giving stacks to your robot. I mean, there's a dinosaur here, whatever. It's only like 1 per unit. Like 1 2-star versus 1 3-star, you only get 1 more stack around. So a really effective strategy right now is just getting early Nitro. Like say you just have like 2 1 3 Nitro, and instead of rerolling, you just push level straight to 8. You don't chase 3-stars at all. You're just playing a standard level 8 game, and you can keep the 3 Nitro forever. Generally, Nidalee is like weak, so you would drop her late game. But you just keep 3 Nitro forever, even if you don't have any 3-stars, and you won't have the T-Rex for a long time because 200 stacks is quite far off. But you just have the robot with stacks that you've been building the whole game. And it's just a very effective front line, and it's also very cheap, obviously. You can have the units at 2-1. You'd like to find the 2-stars, obviously, but it's not the end of the world if you don't have them. And there's no, like a lot of people ask something like, what's the latest I can put in Nitro and kind of like do this? I mean, there's no like hard cutoff. I say if like you're hitting Nitro at 3-1, probably a bit too late to like keep that forever, but I mean, like 2-5, maybe. I mean, 2-1, definitely. As for what you actually play with this, there's 2 main things you can play. One would be Zeri, actually. So you could either play like Jax here and then 4 Bastion, or you can just play like Jhin. And generally you would want to do this when you have Ginsu for Zeri and when your 3 Exotech item is really good. So for example, if you have like Flux Capacitor or Pulse Stabilizer, that can be really effective. And there are some free slots. there's some flexibility in terms of what you can play. I think 4 Nitro is generally not too great. You might want to play it like mid game. You have nothing better, but later in the game, you would just look to cut in Italy. And the other comp that you can play out of this is, or the main like variation is misfortune. Misfortune items. She just wants like AD, Infinity Edge, Giant Slayer, Deathblade, etc. Guardbreaker is great. The more Dynamo you have, the better Shojin is. And if you have like low Dynamo, like say 0 Dynamo or only like 2 Dynamo, I would say Shojin's very important. But at like 4 Dynamo, you would ideally not even have Shojin on her. It's fine if you do. As for like what you play with her, you generally can't really fit 3 Syndicate with this kind of build, which is fine. Sejuani's still a great unit. Just frontline CC. You can play like 4 Dynamo. Ideally, it's obviously Aurora, but if you don't find her, you don't find her. Definitely don't need 4 Dynamo though. You can fit a lot of high quality units, such as Diego's really good. If you get an early Garen, you could potentially play something like 4 Bastion around a Renekton. And you can even potentially duo carry Xayah. If you're playing Jhin for Dynamo, you have like extra 80 items. She gets Marksman, you can duo carry. And I think that's all I have to say about that. But yeah, the main thing is early Nitro allows you to just keep the Nitro forever, and it's just an effective frontline. We can talk more about MF, I guess. There is another MF variation. This is, you might have seen it. It's more just like a standard. You do play Syndicate, so generally just like Braum, and you have a random Darius for 3 Syndicate. Don't really want to play Shaco or TF. They don't do that much. Generally, you would play this board around like 4 Vanguards, so something like Silas. If you find Aurora, Silas Leona is 3 Anima, which is kind of nice to get for free. Thing about this board is 4 Dynamo doesn't actually fit on 8. It's 8 units. If you want to fit 4 Dynamo without an emblem, you would either lose the 4 Vanguard, which makes your frontline a lot weaker, or you don't want to lose Syndicate. You are playing around MF carry. But that's fine. You don't have to have 4 Dynamo. This doesn't have to be the board. If you hit like good legendaries, you could potentially drop some of these Vanguards, play something else. In theory, you could play like a Cho'Gath for 2 Bruiser, but I think this unit is just like very weak without Vertical Bruiser, so I'd prefer not to buy that. This line is honestly very Aurora dependent and really wants to push 9. But I would say MF is a carry that really, really needs to be 2 start, so it's definitely potentially just get stuck on 8. Definitely always put the Syndicate hat, the Kingpin on MF. Braum's just a random tank, that's fine, but this is certainly an MF primary carry comp. You want to build for her. You do want a dual carry. Again, as with the other MF version, you can like potentially fit in a Xayah somehow. Kind of depends on your spot. And if you have like extra AD items, you can dual carry Xayah with her, but you can also just dual carry Jhin too. This Jhin 2 unit is very strong. Ideally, you have itemized Aurora, and at least 2 is also like a very fun unit to itemize. So if you have like AP items in addition to your MF items, you can just have an at least 2 duo carry for most of the game, move to Aurora later. Completely fine. But there is some flexibility in what you can play on this board. 4 Vanguard is generally the standard because that allows you to actually have an effective front line in the mid game. Alright, next, I guess I'll talk about Anima briefly. You probably are already familiar with this comp from last patch. I would say not much has changed in terms of how the comp functions. It did get some nerfs. I'd say it's kind of more reliant on Aurora in a sense. I mean, Aurora was always very good. Hitting her is like always your cap for the comp. But from what I've been seeing, if you don't hit Aurora with this comp, you're just a lot weaker now. So ideally, you want to play this comp from either a lot of tempo, so you can not have to like roll to 0 on 8 and push 9 and cap out. Or if you can like be very rich and guarantee you hit and push 9 that way. Generally, your +1 is just Jhin. But the thing is, if you don't have Aurora, the Jhin's not even that valuable. Because like just 2 Marksman is fine. Xayah is generally your primary carry. You're building 80 items for her. That's how you work around the line, but just 2 Marksman is not that valuable. Oh, if you don't have an emblem, you only have 1 free slot on level 8. You can often just play like a random legendary, like say you hit a Renekton, or like Diego is just a really great unit. If you're in a good spot, you can like stack up Garen mods, but you might be a little weaker in the short term. One thing about this comp is you really, really want to build a backline anti-heal. Aurora is a fantastic applier of anti-heal, whether it be Morello or red buff, which also means you would prefer not to build Sunfire in this comp, but sometimes you can't help it, you know, maybe you're playing a tempo opener, you're just trying to win streak, you just have Sunfire components. But the ideal scenario is you have Aurora playing anti-heal. And I guess I should shout out Little Buddies. Little Buddies is amazing with this comp. You just drop the Yuumi. Jhin is pretty good as well with Little Buddies. You just have a really nice setup with low cost units and then 4 and 5 costs. And oh, I guess I should have briefly mentioned it. I'm actually not sure which weapons are best, particularly on 7. I've heard a lot of people swear by Annihilator, which is the it just does true damage once, but I know some people also like the Gatling gun, the bunny Gatling guns, which is it's physical damage. It's kind of like the other weapons; it keeps applying. Whereas Annihilator is a bit unique in that it's just a one shot. I think the consensus is that Tornadoes is on the weaker side, but I know some people think Annihilator is like the absolute best at 7. You must pick, and some people don't. I am really not sure, to be honest. All right, I think that's all I have to say about Anima. Let's see, next is, I guess it's close enough. I can talk about Marksman Vanguard. It's a pretty simple comp for Marksman or Vanguard. Generally, you do want to play Silas for, that's the wrong unit. You want to play Silas for 3 Anima. One thing about this comp is you really need duo. It's too late now. You really need a double itemized backline. So obviously, sometimes you can't control that. Like maybe you're playing for this comp, but then you just don't get the items. But you really, really want a full set of items on 2 backline carries, Aphelios, Xayah. If you're only like solo carry with this comp because you just don't have the items, it's generally going to be a lot weaker. It's a pretty straightforward comp. The level 8 board is pretty rigid. 4/4. You can't really fit any legendaries on 8. It's a comp that you're happy to like roll deep on 8. Just go for your 2 stars because I mean the 9 is nice. You get to fit Aurora and potentially drop Silas for a better Vanguard like Braum. But it is a comp that really is centered around these 4 costs. Like you can temporarily tank a Jarvan 2 as your main tank if you don't have Leona 2, but that kind of gets outscaled pretty quickly. You really do need the Leona 2, and obviously your backline carries are important. Comp can use like a lot of combat augments because not only are you playing duo carry backline, but also the Jhin and the Jinx, just like random, even with no items. If you get items, that's cool, but you put in quite a bit of work just by being 2-starred, having the 4 marksmen. Items are pretty simple, just like 80 items are good. Ginsu is good on Aphelios, not so great on Xayah, but I mean, it's not the end of the world to have Ginsu Xayah or anything. And that is about it. Pretty straightforward comp. Next, I guess we can finish out the 4 cost comps. I guess we can talk about Ziggs brand. This is a comp I've been seeing some people do well with. There's some flexibility. Generally, it's just some combination of like Street Demon and Strategist. The Amp Strat, there's comp rolling on Annie that you might be familiar with from before the B patch. It's kind of similar, but you're not playing around Annie. Just very Street Demon and Strategist units. You often can play like Techie and stuff. So like you could this is not like a rigid board, but you could, for example, just have like 4 Techie, something like this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Then you have Another slot was just like a 5th Street Demon, whatever. But again, it's very flexible. You can, like, Viego's amazing if you hit him. Kabuko theoretically fits really well on the board. The unit might be a little weak after nerfs, but I imagine you would still play him. Same for Samira. You can also like index more into Strategist with like a random Yumi. Generally, you just go. This is like a brand Ziggs duo carry comp, so Shojin's obviously really good, and then just AP items. You know, Rabadon, Jeweled Gauntlet, stuff like Guardbreaker GS is good. I think Nashor's is like not the best, but it's not the end of the world if you have it. And you are generally playing around Mika main tank. From what I've seen, this is a lot more of a tempo comp. The cap is actually pretty high. Again, you have a lot of potential to cap around legendaries. In particular, Viego is amazing. But realistically, getting to that cap compared to some of the other comps in the game, if you're not in a really good spot, it might be difficult. But from what I've seen, the comp is really strong stage 4 if you can kind of hit the units, have items. Combat augments are great. And again, there is a lot of flexibility in the board. You don't have to play 5 Street Demon, you don't have to play 4 Techie. Depending on what legendaries you hit, you can play around those. Oh, sorry, did you say something, Asa?
Yeah, the Rengar should be a Mundo, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, I just put in a random Street Demon, but you're right. Yeah, the Mord doesn't have to be here. It can be like this,
yeah.
But, yeah. If you're playing like Mord in the slot, yeah, it should be Mundo. I just kind of threw it in without thinking too much, but
I think it's.
I mean,
actually pretty.
My point again is that like you definitely do want the Mundo if you have Mord on this version of the board. My point is more that this is not a rigid board at all. It's kind of like this is the core. Like the Xayah is not even 100% necessary, but like these are the units you're kind of playing around. 3 Street, 3 Strategists, and then just add whatever you hit. But yeah, Mord plus Mundo is definitely a very common variation that you'll see. And I will say I haven't played the line too much myself, so I don't have that much to say about it, but this seems to be like the only real AP forecast line available right now. And I guess there's one more forecast to talk about, and that is Zed. So Zed is if you just play him as like a level 8 board, it's just put in the board. It's just vertical Divinicorp plus Slayer. Board is generally something like this. This is 7 units. If you hit Renekton, you're very happy. That's great. You really want Renekton. If you don't have Renekton, Garen is also a very good unit to hit because modding Zed with Divinicorp is really, really valuable in this line. So if you get Garen and you're not like in immediate threat of dying, you pretty much always want to try to get a Divinicorp mod for your Zed. But I mean, if you don't have the good units, I don't know, random Morgana for 5 Divinicorp, play whatever you have. Urgot is honestly not the worst thing ever, especially if you're like trying to carry Vex. One thing though is that Zed is not really an effective solo carry. He can definitely do a lot of damage. He's very good at like kind of cleaning up fights at the end, but you do want Summoner of duo carry. That can potentially just be like a Senna too. Or if you have like more AP items, like, you know, a bunch of Rods and Tears, you have like blue buff Vex plus like Rabadon, Vex can be your duo carry, but the comp really does cap very high around Renekton specifically. In the ideal endgame scenario, Senna has ridiculous amount of base AD, so you can get a lot of value from eating the Senna with your Overlord bonus on Renekton, and Renekton turns into a very powerful carry. You're also playing Vertical Divinicorp. In the like real max cap, you can also get a Slayer mod for Renekton with Garen, which is very powerful. I would say generally the Divinicorp mod is more a higher priority. The Mundo is like kind of a filler unit. Force Slayer is not bad at all, especially if you're playing around like Senna. You could definitely like find some kind of like legendary cap with, for example, like Viego or something. Definitely not 100% necessary, but this is but the Mundo is generally what you would be playing on level 8. It's very cheap and effective. You do need your frontline to like not fall over immediately with this comp, or else you just find yourself Zed in like a 1v9 situation and he loses those. So Mundo just has some nice traits, very cheap, generally an effective level 8 board that you may or may not pivot out of later. And I guess I do want to note, if you have Divinicorp emblem, you would prefer not to put it on Zed. If you don't have 3 full Zed items, then sure, put it on. That's 3 items. But basically, Divinicorp emblem, the way the trait works is that all units on your board get the bonus, but Divinicorp champions gain double. But that does mean that even if you don't have the emblem on Zed, he's already getting half the bonus. So the emblem only gives him like an additional, or it only doubles those stats, but it's generally going to be less effective than a full item on him. I guess another notable thing is Garen mods. When you mod a unit, if it has the emblem already, it will pop off. So if you happen to have Divinicorp emblem on Zed, and then you get the Divinicorp mod, you don't even need to use a remover. You can just mod him, and the Divinicorp emblem will pop right off. You can't put on Vex, but and I think that's all I had to say about this. So, I mean, Zed items are actually pretty flexible. You can go for somewhat of a glass cannon build with, like, for example, full damage like IE plus like Deathblade or GS or stuff. You can also go for like more of a bruiser build with like BT Titans. I think QSS is actually generally a pretty good item on him. Hodge is very good paired with IE. And Edge of Night is also fine, like Edge of Night plus 2 damage items, like IE plus 1, or Edge of Night Hodge IE. Oh, one more thing, I guess, Zed positioning. So Zed, his ability dashes to the furthest unmarked enemy within 4 hexes. So generally, where you want to put Zed is either A3 or A5. We can full board here. Basically, what happens is, say there's a random Xayah. So basically, if he's in one of these hexes, he can dash to the same side corner from these hexes on first cast and potentially assassinate their backline carry, which is very valuable. So often there's a bit of like a positioning minigame where people are trying to dodge your Zed by moving their carry to the opposite side, and you're trying to snipe them out. And there's like some other nuances to it, but I'm not gonna like get too deep into that here. But just remember that Zed in A3 and A5 can snipe corner carries, which is also something you can like look out for when you're playing against Zed. Okay. I think that's all the 4 costs. We can start talking about some reroll comps, I suppose. Talk about Rengar. It's a pretty popular comp, pretty strong comp. There's a few variations. Generally, you do want to play at least 3 Street Demon. Nico is ideal for 2 Strat, but if you don't have Nico yet, you often just have say a random Mundo or something. For some reason you're playing around Graves, like Alistar with this is pretty good, but generally don't want to play around Graves because that unit is kind of weak, but sometimes you are in the spot for it. But generally this is a 3-cost reroll comp. It's centered around Rengar and Varus, and you really do need both. If I've seen some like Rengar situations where they don't have a strong Varus and the comp is just so much weaker. Item-wise, Rengar wants exactly BT, Titans, Hodge. That's obviously only talking about craftables. There are a lot of very strong artifacts for Rengar. I was told Silvermere is the best one in the data. I haven't checked myself, but I believe it. Silvermere is insane, but like Prowlers is amazing, and there's some other like fine ones, like Death Defiance is good. Varus is Shozin's really good on him, and he's a great Morello holder. His cast does often spread a backline, so that is pretty valuable compared to something like Vex, who's like a fine Morello holder, but she will not apply to backline. And then damage items are really good on him. Like Rabadon's is amazing. JG or something is fine. Stuff like GS Guardbreaker is fine. The Morello is not 100% necessary. You could just have like multiple damage items on him as well. And as far as variation of the comp go, one thing I want to shout out is Jinx with Executioner Emblem is really strong. So if you have Executioner Emblem, you can often play like often play like some kind of 5 Street Demon variation where you reroll both Rengar and Jinx. This is a level 7 board, yeah, and then you can just fit the 5 Executioner at 8. I mean, you can't always fit all the Executioners, or you can't always have all the Executioners at 7 anyway. Sometimes you just don't hit a Vex. Oftentimes you don't hit an Urgot. But you can also like play something like this even without the Jinx. But generally, you do want to play as many Executions as you can, because that's what your comp revolves around.
Wait, do you go for 3-star Varus also?
Oh yes. I guess I didn't make that clear. 3-star Varus is very, very important. This is a Rengar Varus duo comp. I don't view this as like a Rengar solo carry comp. Sometimes you can't and you have to just have just Rengar 3, but 3-star Varus is extremely good and a very high priority. And one thing is so Rengar's targeting, he jumps to the lowest health target within his range. And Varus cast, it hits his current target, but also spreads to the nearest enemy. So one thing is, you want to try to same side Varus as the enemy carry. It won't always work because sometimes they have a bunch of frontline units that will eat the spread from Varus. But if your Varus cast can hit the enemy backline and soften them up, that can make Rengar jump to them, because they'll be the lowest health, and the Varus cast will do a lot of damage. But you definitely do want to try to look for positioning. Another thing is Varus does stun the primary target that he's hitting. So if they have a high priority unit, like say, I don't know, some kind of melee carry like Zed or something, you could potentially look to stun that high priority target by focusing them first with the Varus. And anything else I want to say? I guess tank items are not very valuable in this comp. You really do want to just have Rengar items plus Varus items. In an ideal world, your additional items are like Vex items or something, more damage, but sometimes you will have tank items. And it's kind of hard to hit Nico 2 on 7, but if you hit that, it's a great tank holder. Otherwise, it's just like a random Echo 2 that'll be holding your items. So tank items are definitely not the best. But the thing is, Rengar does want to BT Titan, so that's like 1 cloak and 1 chain that you can already use towards Rengar items. But if you get dropped too many tank items, then, well, you can't do that much about it. Alright, that's all I have to say about Executioners. I guess I'll talk about Nitro Reroll. So I talked about Tempo Nitro earlier. Nitro Reroll is another possibility to do with Nitro. Just like Tempo Nitro, or just like Tempo Nitro, you really, really want Nitro as early as possible. The earlier you get Nitro, the more stacks you'll build up, the faster you'll get the T-Rex. The T-Rex is a really big power jump from just having like a robot, even if the stacks aren't, even if the number of stacks is not that different. So generally your level 6 board will be something like this. It's a bit awkward because you cannot fit 3 Exotech and 4 Nitro, so generally you just like cut one of the Nitros. Could also just cut Elise. Or sorry, I did cut Elise. You could also just cut Nidalee. Those are kind of the 2 odd ones out. This is primarily a Jhin Shyvana duo comp. Shyvana is your main tank. Jhin is your main carry. It is a 3 Exotech comp, so what Exotech item you have on 3 actually does matter. For example, if you have Pulse Stabilizer, this is extremely, extremely BIS. This may be a potential reason you want to play the comp. Best item on Jhin possible. If you have something like, I don't know, Cyber Coil, you could still play the comp, but you should be a bit more wary because you will be weaker because your Exotech item is just low value. And in particular, this comp wants the tempo really hard on stage 3, so having a free Jhin item from the Exotech means you'll a lot more often be able to have 3 item Jhin on stage 3 and try to win rounds. As for when you would want to play this comp, I mentioned earlier, like, yeah, you want Nitro on 2-1. I think it's also highly augment dependent in general. For example, if you have something like, if you have a reroll augment, like for example, Starry Night, Shoplift, those kind of augments, you can look for this on like standard econ with like no extra money from augments or anything, it's probably a bit difficult to play this comp. As I mentioned earlier, the priority is Jhin and Shyvana, your main tank and backliner, respectively. If you can 3-star stuff like Nidalee and Elite and Kindred, that's fine, that's good. But if you're running out of bench space, you should prioritize Jhin and Shyvana, and sometimes you just can't hit Nidalee and Kindred. Because we're prioritizing the 2 cost, it is a roll on 6 comp, which makes hitting the 1 cost a bit more difficult, but if you don't hit them, it's not a problem. When you find Sejuani, she just goes in over Jax. That's like a strict upgrade, and generally Neferi is not too great. You can potentially reroll Neferi as well in this comp if you have like melee carry items. I mentioned earlier Hyperfangs is like a melee carry item, so sometimes you're in the spot to reroll Neferi as your carry, and then in that case you absolutely should keep Nidalee for amp. But otherwise, if you don't have like 3-star Nidalee long term, you probably would look to drop her, at least for Dynamo, and then you can either fit to Zeri for like rapid fire or play like some kind of 4 Bastion variation. Rerolling at least is also another potential thing to do that's powerful. You can't always do it because either you're too poor or you don't have extra bench space. But if you have extra AP items that you don't have anything to do with, you have a lot of releases. Release 3 really helps with the cap. And long term, after you hit all your units and you're pushing levels, you generally just cap around legendaries. You're already playing around Dynamo. Aurora is probably the best thing to hit. If you choose to play like Jax, Sejuani, you can go like 4 Bastions with Nectin. So there's probably generally better things to do. Viego is just an amazing unit. You already have you get Techie with Shyvana, so happy to play that. You could in theory play something like Annie. And in fact, the synergies actually fit kind of well with like Viego, Annie plus either Neferi or Nidalee for amp, but say this Annie unit is not something you're looking too hard to play around. But another thing is this comp, a lot of the variations when you get to the higher levels work really well with Bronze for Life. For example, this around Annie, you just have like really good Bronze for Life value potentially. Okay, I think that's about it for this comp. We'll move on. All right, next I want to talk about, I guess we can talk about TF. The TF is, I would say TF is a comp that really, really wants to win stage 3. It's a level 6 reroll, you're playing around 2 costs. There is some flexibility. You want to play 5 Syndicate when you hit it, but if you don't have an emblem, you do need to hit 1 MF in order to play 5 Syndicate. So generally, if you don't have MF yet, you'll have some open slots. Oftentimes you'll play something like this, like random Ross, random like Gragas, and then a rapid fire, something like Draven. You could also play like Boombot, Kog'Maw plus Skarner or something. If you have too much value, oh yeah,
I've
go
been
on.
playing this a decent bit. I think the Boombot variation is better than Rost. Skarner does like a lot of damage, and I think he's just like the best tank actually if you 3-star him.
Debatable. So
I've been playing both, but yeah, I like Rost.
I've actually played this comp quite a lot from too much value. So if you have too much value, you must play like Skarner, Rost, and then often just play like a 4th Vanguard. I mean, it doesn't matter particularly, but something like this. I will say I often without too much value, I actually don't like Skarner. I know Asa just said he did, but like the thing is, I also don't think like rapid fire is that worth. TF's best build is Gunblade, Ginsu. If you don't have 2 Ginsus, rapid fire gets a lot more value. But if you actually have the build, I feel like you don't need rapid fire at all. You can just go like pure frontline. And one thing is Darius is like a pretty much uncontested unit. So you oftentimes just hit Darius 3 kind of for free while you're rolling anyway. I do agree that he's not like the highest cap. And the best tank for this comp, if you can actually hit it, is Braum 3. But Braum is kind of hard to hit. He's a 3 cost, you're rolling on 6, and you might not have money to like hold extra Braums. But there's definitely some flexibility about it either way. And late game, the plan is to get MF items. Again, like 80 items are good on her, like stuff like IE. You're generally not vertical Dynamo, so like Shojin's good, but you can't be too picky necessarily because not playing for MF items. One thing is you're not always gonna have perfect TF items. Slamming a Shojin on him is actually pretty good. It gives you a lot of mid game tempo, and then if you get a better item late game, you can move the Shojin to MF. But late game, when you have MF itemized, you want to actually kingpin her. So I guess I didn't mention this earlier, but you always kingpin the TF, your main carry, and then on 5 Syndicate, you get a second kingpin. Throughout most of the mid game, you're probably just going to kingpin your main tank. So if you have, main tank Darius, main tank Braum, whatever, that's your second kingpin. But both of those kind of fall off later in the game. And ideally, when you have an itemized MF as your duo carry, prefer to kingpin her. And again, there's some flexibility in the comp depending on what you're playing around. Like if you have like Skarner 3 and or like Ross 3 and or Braum 3, you want to play like 4 Vanguard. If you're Darius main tank, you probably want to play like Gragas or whatever bruiser. And you can potentially even cap around like 4 bruiser. But the strongest variation is definitely if you somehow make it to like Braum 3. Then like later, Aurora, once again, like probably the best unit in the game. If you can get to her, you want to put her on your board. And that's about it. I guess I could briefly mention some artifacts. TF's best artifact is Zhonya's. So with Zhonya's, you don't really need a Gunblade. Double Ginsu is what you want. Very powerful. Definitely could look to potentially angle TF from just like getting a Zhonya's. There's some other things like Wit's End and stuff that are not bad on him, but this is his single best artifact. And then one thing that a lot of people don't know about, Silvermere Darius is actually really, really good. Darius is kind of like not a pure tank. He also does. He's like kind of a physical damage fighter hybrid. So Silvermere, if you hit Darius 3, he actually does an insane amount of damage with the 120 AD, and also the tank stats are really nice. And the penalty of locking attack speed doesn't really matter for him. He's just a tank. He'll get mana from taking damage and then cast repeatedly. Silvermere Darius is actually very, very strong. And with Silvermere, you can go like BT, but you can also just go like full tank items. It's fine. You don't have to like go for like bruiser-ish build. You can still just go tank items. And I think that's all I have to say about this comp. Okay, moving on. Guess we can talk about Veigar. This is not a unit I've been loving too much, but have seen some people do well with him, depending. I'd say the core is just these 3 units: Veigar, Poppy, Shyvana. These are generally the units you would want to reroll. Poppy or Shyvana main tank, Veigar main carry. From there you can add like some random techie units or like some random Bastion units. Starry Knight seems pretty good with this comp generally. You are playing a lot of low cost and you can potentially reroll. I will say Zyra and Seraphine do not feel too strong even at 3-star to me. So as far as like the cap goes, you definitely want to cap around 4 Cyberboss if you can. It's hard to get there though. You need to find a Kabuko. There's one of the Cyberboss augments. I believe it's called New High Score. If you get that, basically it gives you cash outs as your Cyberbosses deal damage, and the last cash outs, they like give you Ziggs and Kabuko. So if you have that augment, you can guarantee this 4 Cyberboss cap. But again, the lower cost techies, like you can definitely reroll them and like play around them, but they're pretty weak long term. So you're generally looking to cap around like the high cost techies, Bryn, Viego, and then Cyberboss as stated. Veigar really, really wants blue buff, and yeah, sure. Sunblade's really good, but not like 100% needed. But the unit just feels very weak if you don't have these 2 items. And I said it earlier, I personally have not been loving this comp, but there's definitely like some augments that work well with it. As mentioned earlier, New High Score, the Cyberboss augment seems quite good. Actually, another Cyberboss augment, I think it's called like Tower Weaklings. It's basically just like a combat augment. It's actually really, it seems really strong. There's that techie augment that gives techies ability power for takedowns, like skills forever. I have seen like people do well with that. And then I mentioned earlier like Starry Knight. Definitely could play around like some econ augments to try to hit everything, but I have also seen some Veigar boards hit everything and not be like too strong. So it's definitely a comp you can play, but I definitely need to see more to really evaluate. And again, I was told that Brand 1 is better than Zyra 3. I don't know if that's like I'm that willing to believe it, but the fact that I'm kind of willing to believe it means that I really am not. I have no faith in this Zyra unit. Brand is going to be your ideal backline duo carry, or if you have 4 Cyber Boss, obviously have Ziggs as well, but I would not want to play around like Seraphine Zyra past the early mid game. Definitely want to try to cap around the 4 and 5 costs. And I think that's all about Veigar. Alright, next comp. This is a Cypher cash out comp that you may have seen. It mostly a Draven comp, though I guess you could also call it a Zeri comp. Generally runs Zed duo carry. Despite being a comp that really wants to play around 3 costs, like ideally you hit Draven 3, Galio 3 with this comp, but sometimes can't. The general idea with this comp is you hash out Cypher, like say at 3-7, and then play this comp. The transition's a lot easier because you're already playing a lot of these Cypher units. And then this is 7 units. It's a level 8 comp. The 8th unit is ideally Renekton, but if you don't have Renekton, just like random other 4th Bastion is fine. I guess I'll put Renekton in. There is some nuance to this comp. You are running 3 Exotech, so if you have a good Exotech item, like say, Flux Capacitor, Pulse Stabilizer, gives you more room to play around Zeri. Ideally, you do really, really want to hit Draven 3, but it kind of depends on your spot. Sometimes you just can't do it. Depending on what Cypher cash out you go, it can like bring you in multiple directions. In ideal world, you are like duo carrying Zed because you have you get extra items. You have like backline carry plus Zed duo carry. In a really ideal world, you itemize everyone. You can have like a Zeri 2 with items, a Draven with items, Zed with items, and then you even build towards Renekton items. Of course, you also do want some tank items, so that can start to get pretty unrealistic. Zed and Draven actually have some decent synergy because Draven can ult a backline, which you can pick off backliners together with the Zed. If you've played Zed, you'll notice sometimes he'll like get on their backliner but not be able to completely finish them off. So Draven can definitely help with that. I would generally not recommend playing this comp from not Cypher cash out, and I would definitely recommend like not playing it from like a small Cypher cash out either. If you don't have 3-star Draven, which you often won't have on like stage 4, it can be hard to stabilize unless you have a big cash out. If you're just on full 2-star board, you can definitely kind of just lose fights and then also like fall off later in the game. And if you were playing around Cypher, even if your cash out wasn't that big, it'll probably be relatively low HP. So
Just to add to
having a strong go ahead.
Just to add to the Zed Draven synergy, Galio also has synergy if you put him far left or far right. Although usually if you have a 3-star, you don't always want to do that, but he can stun the enemy carry in the corner too.
As far as I know, he needs to. Do you know if he needs to like walk up 1 hex for that, or if can he do it from without walking up?
Yeah, so it depends on the enemy like having.
Yeah, so if they just have a unit here like blocking, like he can't do that, right? He needs to walk up.
Yeah.
Or am I wrong?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, Galio, as you said, Galio can potentially hit backline, but his range is not like enough from your front line, so he needs to actually like walk up into the enemy frontline row, and then he can't hit backline from there. But that's definitely a relevant thing. Like if you're playing against it, you don't want to let Galio just like walk up and stun your corner carry. You can kind of block off this hex with the tank and help prevent that. I guess I can talk about Draven itemization. IE Last Whisper are really good on him. He hits like backline, and he also like goes twice. So Even Shroud is fine. Even Shroud's great, but Last Whisper is a bit more ideal. Draven is just a really good Last Whisper flyer. Big AoE, including hitting the backline. And IE is good. I think Shojin's really good on him. This would probably be my ideal build. But random other AE items are fine too, like GS, Deathblade. I think Ginsu is not the best on them, but it's fine to have a Ginsu, and you can also look to like find a better third item and move to Zeri, for example. And Zed items. I think that's about it for this comp. It's definitely like very volatile though. One thing I've noticed is some of the matchups, even if you're stronger, you can just like randomly lose. Like for example, Rengar can be a really rough matchup because Draven's targeting is just like not very good at killing Rengar. Basically, he'll like ult the Rengar and he'll hit him, and then that'll be that. The Rengar will just like start healing up, and Draven won't focus fire him. I've like had a really strong cap boards of this that just like die to Rengar randomly. So it is actually pretty risky to play this on low life, but it can be strong. Right. Moving on. Guess I can talk about Vayne. So Vayne is I've heard some people refer to it as like a hero augment check, specifically category 5. Category 5, Runon's Vayne is really strong. Runon's Vayne in general is very good, even without Cat 5, but I think there are definitely some more spots that you could play it. The general board is something like 4 Vanguard. Ideally you have Leona, but you can't always have Leona. But if you have Leona, you get 3 Anima for free. Say you don't have Leona, you can have something like 4 Vanguard, 3 Anima on 6, and then on 7, ideally it's something like Senna, Zed, 4 Slayer, 4 Vanguard. Again, Leona is ideal. Vayne really does want Ginsu. Runon's is really good. The third item can be like any damage item, honestly. But like double Ginsu is really good. Double Runon's is good. Something like GS or Deathblade is fine. And it can actually be a bit of an awkward comp to play because you do want to cap around Senna 3 and Jarvan 3 as well. I'm not entirely sure about this because I've seen a lot of people try to just like roll on 7, like play a standard 3-cost reroll with it, and they just kind of die because if you're playing just go straight to 7, you can't roll too deep on 6, and you can definitely just like lose stage 3 and take damage. But you like roll too deep on 6, like if you just look exclusively for this like Vayne, not that much money left, you don't get to hit the Jarvan or Senna 3 sometimes, and your cap is a lot lower, and that can be really bad. So it can be an awkward comp to play. I personally like to roll a lot on 6 because I think you really want to prioritize winning stage 3 with this kind of line, but I've seen people just kind of skip 6 and try to go to 7. Not entirely sure about that, but there's some other things you can do, like if you don't have any Sennas, potentially you could try to like cap around 6 Vanguard or something. You probably want to have like double Ginsu or something to actually have the damage to support this kind of build. Potentially you could like drop some of the Vanguards and try to cap around, say, 6 Slayer. I would probably not recommend doing this without like an emblem because you're running Shaco Mundo, which is probably not completely ideal. Then like if you don't have if you do have the emblem, you know, just the random Mundo is completely fine. I think this comp is actually has like a really high cap. Even last patch, I saw it like beat amp strat sometimes when it hit the nuts. But it's kind of awkward because you're kind of stuck between wanting to tempo on 6 around Vayne and then wanting to play like 3-cost reroll with Senna and Jarvan. Definitely would have to like play more, see it more to get more of an opinion on it, but it's absolutely a comp that exists and can be played. While we're talking about Vayne, I guess I can talk about Shaco. I've actually seen a lot of Shacos do really well. It's definitely not the most popular comp. I imagine most players are only playing it from like an amazing spot, but you do need 3 syndicates for them to go to backline. And aside from that, it's usually just vertical slayers. There's some other stuff you can do. Like I think I saw a player go like TF, MF cap, 5 syndicate. But generally you just around Slayer, like 3 Syndicate and then Slayers. Obviously would want Draven, and then I think this comp is really tempo reliant. You really want like at minimum Shako 2 with like good items on stage 2. You want to kill units. His passive, he gets AD whenever he gets a kill, so you really want to like snowball. You want to hit a really early Shako 3 so you can win stage 3, continue your snowballing. And at cap, you could potentially play like a backlane carry like Vayne or Senna. But in an ideal world, you at the very least have Zed and Shako itemized duo carry. Because when you get to that cap with like 6 Slayers, Zed, Shako, it's actually like a real nightmare for some comps to deal with. You just have so much potential backline access. And a lot of backline comps can really struggle to deal with the Shako Zed. Like it can already be really annoying to try to like dodge a Zed with your backline, but then when you add a Shako, it can be really strong. I would say the comp is like a bit weaker into like other melee carry matchups. Like I've seen Rengar do pretty well, even against the really capped Shaco Zed board, but backline carries can definitely struggle. And I guess I should talk about Shaco itemization. He really wants Edge of Night. He does not de-aggro the way like Zed does, so he gets focused down, he's just toast. Edge of Night, really good for preventing that. And then damage is good, like Aphelios is really good. Hodge is really good to pair with IE. Even with Slayer healing, like having another Omni Vamp item is not bad. Something like BT is fine. I'm sure you could go like random damage like Deathblade, Giant Slayer. There's some nice Ornn artifacts for him. I'd say the one that stands out to me is Prowlers. Prowler Shako is just like an absolute nightmare to deal with. He kind of takes the whole backline access thing to 11. He just like dashes around, killing everything. I think Prowler Shako is really strong. I wouldn't like necessarily just play Shako with no Shakos and just the Prowlers, but if you have like a Shako 2 opener, for example, definitely something you could look out for. And I believe that's all I have to say about Shako. I think I covered all the comps I wanted to talk about. I can look at the units and try to see if there's anything I forgot about. Oh, there's actually one. Fiddlesticks. So Fiddlesticks is just a vertical bruiser comp. Generally, it's going to be just 6 bruiser plus Fiddle on 7. It is generally a reroll comp, but in some instances you could just play like around Fiddle too. I would say this comp really shines based on artifacts. That doesn't mean you can't play without artifacts, but in particular, either Sniper's Focus or Blinding Jewel is amazingly strong on Fiddle. Sniper's Focus, basically the synergy here is that once you get through their front line, Fiddle can like start draining their backline at the same time. He targets multiple units at the same time, so like you don't even need to kill their entire front line, and he can potentially like drain their backline from your backline with Sniper's Focus. Normally he's like a 2x unit, so he'll walk up. With Snipers, you can put him in your backline, and you just get an insane amount of damage on their backline if you can get there. And Blinding Jewel, he just targets a lot of units. He ticks. Good. No matter what your build, you really want Archangel. In fact, you want 2 Archangels. It is a stall comp, playing around 6 bruiser. You want to try to stall for your Fiddle to kill everything with multiple Archangels. So like, with Sniper's Focus, you just want 2 Archangels. With Blinding Jewel, you just want 2 Archangels. With neither of those, you still want 2 Archangels. The third item can be like, it can be like another damage item. Like you need to use like GS or JG to amp. You could also go like triple Archangel, honestly. I think healing item like BT or Gunblade is not bad either. And if you get Bruiser Crest, Bruiser Crest is really good as well with the comp. One weakness of the comp is you're really Cho'Gath reliant because first of all, if you don't have a Cho'Gath, you can't even play 6 Bruiser, assuming you don't have Emblem. Or, I mean, if you have a Kabuko, that works, but if you don't have a Cho'Gath, you can't even play 6 Bruiser. He also gives your Fiddle Boombot, which is actually pretty powerful. And then the last thing is Cho'Gath himself is like a really strong unit in 6 Bruiser. It's not just like a Fiddle solo carry comp necessarily, even though he is generally the one doing all the damage. Your Cho'Gath can actually carry some fights just by scaling. Now, subject of Cho'Gath. There's a couple of Cho'Gath items that are amazing. Anima Visage, Talisman. Shout out to Innervating Locket. I think by itself this item is not that insane on Cho'Gath, but you have Innervating Locket plus Talisman. I think this is like a borderline unbeatable combo. This combo is completely insane. Anyone remembers like Forbidden Idol, which was removed from the game? Cho'Gath is kind of like a Forbidden Idol by himself in that he gains max health, and then he also the max health he gains scales his ability, so he gains even more health, which synergizes very well with Locket. And then if you have Talisman and he ascends, it's just he just straight up 1v9s. I guess another thing to mention is 6 Bruiser. Redemption is amazing. It doesn't have to be in Cho'Gath, but Redemption is an amazing item. You can't always get to it because you want multiple Archangels, so tiers are in high demand. One thing is you don't need Magic Shred necessarily, because Fiddle does have built-in Shred in his ability. You can still build it. It's not bad. 30% versus Fiddle's innate Shred is only 20%. One thing that's awkward is you don't have a Shiv holder on 7 generally. So like if you make it to 8, or if you have a Bruiser emblem, you can maybe play a backliner to hold the Shiv, but you don't have a Shiv holder. And Shiv also uses a tier anyway, so it's not ideal. In the same vein, you probably prefer Sunfire in this comp because you just don't have a great Red Dwarf or Morello holder. You don't really want either of those items on Fiddle, and Sunfire is pretty good. Let's see, I mentioned artifacts. And yeah, I think that's all I have to say about Fiddle. Definitely can be very strong. I personally think of him as like an artifact based comp, but I've seen people, for example, just take like Bruiser Emblem and play Fiddle and do well. Or play Fiddle like without anything in particular. Maybe their items are good, they natural them Fiddles, stuff like that. Definitely a comp with some potential. It is often kind of like matchup based, in that sometimes you play against comps that have low damage and they just can't kill you. You ramp up, you completely destroy them. While sometimes you're against like some very high damage comps and then you kind of just die to them. I think that comp definitely can have polarizing matchups. It also depends on like your augments, your items, how strong you are. And I think that's all about Fiddle. I believe that's all the comps I wanted to talk about. I'll again just like make sure. Okay, I guess one last thing. A while ago, this is actually from quite a while ago, but asked for some like feedback or like some suggestions for like additional ideas for stuff to like talk about to you guys. And Learning TFT actually sent me some questions. I don't think there's enough like subject matter here to do like a full session on them, but I can just kind of like talk about them. Maybe someone will find it helpful. So the question he asked, this is actually from last set, but it should still be like applicable to TFT in general. How to approach 5 loss going to stage 3? What's your game plan for 3-1 and 3-2? So generally, if you're looking to 5 loss, you should have some idea of what you're going to do already. There's a bit more nuance to it because sometimes on 2-1, you're just looking at your situation. You're like, okay, I'm going to 5 loss. That's what I'm going to do. Sometimes you might be just playing a normal board, trying to win even, and then you maybe like lose 3 or 4 rounds. And you're like, okay, let me go for the 5 loss. But it is highly preferred to play for reroll from 5 loss, just because one thing about 5 lossing is you're often selling all your units to make econ intervals. Not always the case. Sometimes you just play strongest board and you lose anyway. But you're often selling your units to make econ intervals, which really hampers your ability to actually be strong stage 3 because you just don't have the units. You're probably not going to have upgrades unless you natural them. And if you lose every fight in stage 3 because you just don't have a board, you're going to be very low HP. You play for level 8, not rolling a single time, playing for 4-2. And that can often just be a really bad spot to be in. So if possible, you'd like to look for a reroll angle. Some exceptions, obviously, like Cipher is a very good exception. With Cipher, you're often happy just to lose stage 3. Be low HP, get the big cash out, that's that. Sometimes it can't be helped. Sometimes you don't have like a good reroll angle. You just have to kind of take the L and lose stage as well. Start the game with very low HP. There's a bit more nuance to it. Like augments can definitely influence like what you're able to do. With some augments, you might have more of an option to play for a big win out on level 8, even if you sacrifice stage 3. Sometimes you might actually be able to like roll on 3-2 and not even play reroll. Like if you have a lot of money, for example, you might just roll a few times, try to build a board, save some HP. And it's also like kind of meta dependent. How strong the reroll comps are, how strong the level 8 comps are, how much like win out potential if you full stack the level 8 comps have. And then you obviously also have to play around what items you have. So pretty nuanced, but I would say, if possible, angle a reroll comp that you have a good spot for. How do you approach playing for first versus placements? When, how frequently do you scout to determine this? There's a few things here, so I guess I can get the really obvious out of the way. If someone has like some actual Exodia setup, like 10 Anima, 10 Street Demon, if I don't know, they hit like a 3-star forecast really early or something, you can just like recognize that, oh, I can't play for first. I just have to play for placement. Definitely like a question with a lot of it's very situational. One thing you think about is, so as in terms of like playing for first versus placements, generally we're talking about when do you spend your gold. So if you're playing for first, you would generally try to spend less gold to keep making econ. Maybe you make 50, or even if you're not making 50, maybe you make like 30 in a situation in which you would otherwise roll down. Whereas playing for placements usually just means spending all of your gold, trying to save as much HP as possible. The honest answer is it's just entirely case by case. Obviously, scouting is like a big part of it. Even if someone doesn't have like an absolute Exodia setup, sometimes someone just has a spot where you look at them and say, I don't think I can ever outcap this player. Like, you might see a player who, has a lot of HP, they're win streaking the whole game. They went level 8, hit like all their 2-stars, and then they're just saving all their money while they're also really strong. And they're just going to be able to like go 9 or even 10 sometimes, cap out legendaries. And you might not have like the same amount of money to compete with that. But even then, it's like some more nuance. There's like, it's not just playing for first versus playing for placement. It also be like, for example, playing for like third or fourth versus playing for like fifth or sixth. Sometimes you might have a spot that's like so bad that you think if you don't spend your money, you are just straight 8th. So you just spend all your gold, you play to win like 1 or 2 more fights, and maybe that gets you like a 6th instead of an 8th. It's the thing is, it's just like case by case though. What's your learning process look like? How do you come to the conclusion you came to in the conditional lines analysis? Is it mostly like playing, looking at matches, discussion groups? A little bit of everything. Playing is definitely a big part of it. I personally base most of my opinions by kind of how comps feel. So this is like I guess this is gonna kind of go into a tangent, but I'm sure this is something everyone does, whether like consciously or subconsciously, but basically like whenever you play TFT, you kind of have this general idea of how strong things are, whether it be like comps, units, items, whatever. So you probably have like at least some vague idea of how strong different comps are. If you haven't played at all, you might have no idea, but as you play, you kind of develop this idea. And the more you play or even watch TFT, the more you kind of develop this. So like you have this vague sense of like, okay, if this board with like these augments and these items and like these upgrades should be like about this strong. And every time you like watch a fight, you're kind of like at least subconsciously, if not subconsciously, comparing. Like you might have said to yourself the phrase like, "Oh, I thought I would have won that," or "I thought I was gonna lose," and then the other outcome happens. But so you always have this idea of like how strong things are, and then you're always like tuning this idea based on what you observe. So for example, if you think you have like a really good spot, like your items are great, your augments are good, you have your upgrades, and maybe you think your comp's good, and then you like lose to a board that doesn't have like as much power or like perceived power, like their augments are mediocre, maybe like they didn't even 2-star their carry, You kind of maybe have this idea that, oh, maybe this comp I'm playing is not as good as I thought it was, because like I should in theory be very powerful based on augments, upgrades, etc. But then I lost to what should have been like a much weaker board. So yeah, most of my conclusions just kind of come from playing and watching. You just constantly like kind of fine tuning this like mental kind of, I guess, model of like how strong different comps are based on like the situations I've seen them in. Like if I see a comp that I think has like a really bad spot and they're winning fights, like, you know, whenever you see like a full 1-star board just winning all the time, for example, back in like Fairy Callista, you would just see Rakan 1, Callista 1 load in and just completely destroy boards with like 2-star forecasts. That's the kind of thing you see over and over, and you're like, okay, this comp is probably very, very strong. Well, on the other hand, if you constantly have like great spots for comps, like, you know, again, augments are good, items are good, fully upgraded, and you're just losing every fight, you're probably going to think to yourself, okay, this comp is probably not that great. But it does like kind of take a lot of sample size to kind of determine this. You know, one game sometimes maybe you're just losing every fight because the lobby was really strong in the heavy tempo, and it wasn't even your comp being bad. Or the reverse can also happen where you're like winning every fight, but it was just because your lobby low rolled. And yeah, discussing with people can definitely be very helpful with regards to that. Getting different perspectives, and it's just like more sample size because you can only play so much, watch so much. So kind of even if you don't like take their words at like 100%, just talking to people, asking what they think about various like comps and stuff, kind of can like expand your like mental model of how good different stuff is. And it's not just comps; it's also like items and like for example, items on units, like X item on Y unit. The more you see it being played, like you watch the unit in fights, maybe you check the damage charts, you kind of get more of an idea of like how good it is on that unit. With regards to that, you can also just like look at item stats, obviously, but it applies to like everything in the game. Like augment stats are gone now, so kind of this like feel is probably how you would develop your idea of how good various augments are, both in general and in specific comps. And yeah, I definitely went on like a long rant there, but that's about what I have to say about that. And I think that that was all the questions that he sent me. So I think I'm done yapping for now. Anyone has any like questions or whatever, feel free to ask. What is Jinx? What is Jinx Biss in this comp? I think like Runons is really good on her. But it's okay. The real answer is just like check the stats. You're not necessarily going to be in a position to like itemize her as your like primary, because Rengar, you do prioritize Rengar items, and then even with like Jinx duo, you often do want various items, so kind of just have some like leftover 80 items. But what I remember, like Runons is really, really good on her. And yeah, again, I think that's like all the yapping I have for now. So anyone has any other questions, feel free to ask. I'll answer. Otherwise, I am done now.
I'm curious. You mentioned you just like kind of feel it out. Like, how much do you like? How much do you like VOD review and like look at stats compared to? Because I know like before you looked at stats a decent bit.
Oh, so if I want to be perfectly honest, I used to look at a lot of stats when augment stats been in the game. Even
Oh yeah,
during
true.
game, I would just like be in a spot and I would just look up the stats. But I've honestly gotten really lazy about looking at stats since removal augment stats. Obviously, item stats are still in the game and are helpful, but I'm just gotten really lazy about it. Like, you know, I was asked what's Jinx Biss. I honestly have no idea because I haven't looked. If I was like more diligent, I would have looked and known, but yeah, I just don't know. VOD reviewing, I don't really review my own VODs, but I watch other people, so I don't know.
What percentage of the time that you spend thinking, researching, and playing TFT is like playing versus other?
Nowadays it's probably like It's probably like 90% playing versus 10 other. I used to like play less and watch more, but nowadays I like play a lot and don't really like do other stuff that much.
Our snapshot timing is really tight.
Yeah, 10
I'm
days
definitely
is
bored.
completely insane.
It's like 4 days from now. It's the first cup snapshot for anyone trying to qualify for that.
Yep.
To add to that, how would you explain your efficiency level in games? Because I feel like you're typically way less games played at similar LP levels to a lot of the other top players. Like, what do you, how would you explain your competitive advantage relative to the rest of the field on why you're able to do that with so few games?
Oh, I think playing too much is like explicitly a disadvantage because if you want to play your best, it like requires a lot of mental focus, and it's just like physically impossible to do that if you're playing like 15, 20 games a day. So I used to just play a lot less and like make sure I was like more focused and trying to like actually play well in the games I did play, and then I would like spend more time watching and learning outside the game. But as I've like played more games, I definitely like feel the effect that yeah, the more I play, the worse I play. So playing more just like loses that efficiency. And also streaming is really bad for efficiency because if you're human, you're gonna play a lot worse on stream. That's just a thing.
I'd also like to mention, like, I think Grea is just like really good at the game, so his like scores look good compared to other players. I think like a lot of people obviously talk about like just so for like Setsuko, but I actually think like Grea is like one of the best TFT players that I played with.
Oh, I mean, I think like Dish Soap is just like completely insane. I don't
Yeah,
know.
I think
Like,
just Soap is
the
the
thing I
best
don't
now,
get is
but
how he can like play so well on stream. Like he's like obviously he is like used to it, but like there's other people who are used to it and like don't do nearly as well on stream. Just like I don't know. I remember him like saying this that like um I think he said like he just like feels comfortable playing on stream. So like he doesn't really like play that much worse or anything, but like I just cannot relate to
oh, he
that.
said he plays better. That's why he always plays Worlds
Or
on
yeah,
stream.
but
He
better.
says he
Like
can't play
when
off
I
stream
stream,
anymore.
I feel like I'm not even playing the game. It's just impossible to like focus properly, and I just play terribly. But I mean, I do enjoy streaming, so I'll do it anyway.
I remember Dishsoap saying that when he doesn't stream, he's basically still talking to himself as if he's streaming, and if he doesn't, he plays worse. But also related to that, Grea, who do you usually VOD like watch stream? Like who are your favorite people to watch?
I mean, I'm a K3 Soju fan, but like that's a big part of like entertainment factor.
This guy loves hate
But
watching
like
Spencer.
I mean, K3 is like Soju is obviously very good though, and like the thing is like I don't know the way I learn like I don't necessarily need to watch like the best player ever to learn because I'm mostly just like kind of trying to like build up my like idea of the game as I was saying earlier, just like so just by like watching the fights and stuff, I feel like I can learn a lot. But I mean, I do watch Soap a lot. Obviously, he's amazing. I mean, I'll watch like pretty much all the big streamers if I'm like watching if I'm like trying to watch and they're online, like Robin, Kyun, whoever, like Weijin when he does stream, I think is a player I like to watch and can learn a lot from. But I mean, yeah, I'll watch Spencer as well. But like that guy only streams during boot camp, so he will be disappearing soon. But yeah, pretty much all the like popular streamers, honestly.
And are you usually watching live or are you watching on like
Yeah, I'll
2xd?
just watch live. It's
Okay.
just like whenever I feel like watching, I'll just like watch stream. And sometimes like sometimes I will go to like a streamer's VODs and like kind of not even like 2x. I'll just like spam the like arrow key, which like I think it skips ahead by like 5 or 10 seconds, however many. I'll just like spam like to kind of skim through the game. And like generally that's like when I'm looking for something specific. Like for example, if I saw someone play like a really weird comp, or like if like someone did really well in the spot where like I thought their spot was doomed, stuff like that. I'm looking for something specific. I just want to like get an idea of what happened during the game. or if maybe there's like a comp I have no idea how to play, I'll just kind of try to find someone who played that comp and skim through to get an idea of what's going on there. But mostly it's just like watching live whenever I feel like it, and like between games. Like if I'm playing between games, I'll usually just like watch whatever for like a few minutes. In queue and stuff.
Basically, I have Zed, Cypher into Zed, which we went over last time. Exotech with good items, and like with also with like items from or augment.
I think one thing. Oh yeah, go ahead. Yeah, I'll go over your read and then I'll comment on stuff in a bit.
Okay. Nitro Zeri, if this is like good tempo and good exo for like the first two, because this is usually played with 3 exo. So I guess it's just the first one.
Yeah. So you can also play a 5, but yeah.
Right. The 5
So I think
is
on 8
9?
you can drop to 4 nitro, 3 nitro.
Oh right. You drop Nidalee and put in Mordekaiser in theory.
Yeah, exactly. So if you have like a mid first one, but like a flux capacitor as your second one, and you have like a good reason to believe your early game is good playing nitro into that line, then I'm down. I've played that a good number of times. I feel like Exo is in a cool spot where Hollowbow is quite bad, but like and Cyber Coil, but you can kind of choose to play 3, 5, or 7, and they all feel kind of viable.
Right. And then I've seen some match histories where I feel like some of the top players are playing like kind of a more flex version of Street, like kind of like I guess someone in the Discord chat was talking about like kind of playing what Annie was before, but like maybe 3 or 5 Street Demon and kind of flexing. I haven't like really looked into
It's a reasonable line. I've played it a few times now. I've done some looks into the stats, gone over it with other people, and I don't think this board is that. I mean, it's flex when you find the 5 cost, but I actually think the level 8 board is pretty static. You play, and I think this, if I'm not mistaken, when I check the stats, like 5 Street Demon better, and you play Mundo. It's a Ziggs brand duo, and then you're playing Mundo Xayah, and then you don't play Samira because Samira is so bad, and then you play Veigar and Mord.
Veigar Mord. Oh, interesting.
It's Veigar, Mord, Ziggs. Veigar, Mord, Ziggs, and then 5 Street Demon units. The 2 strats, Mundo Xayah brand. I've been practicing rolling down for that board as well on TFT Roll Down Simulator. I've been practicing rolling down for that board, the Exo board, and like an 80 flex Xayah board.
Okay, so this board right here.
Yes, that exact board. Yeah.
Okay,
Am I looking? Yeah.
And
I think this is I think this is the standard level 8 for that line.
Okay, and then at level 9, you're kind of just like throwing in 5 class. Or more
you can opt to like drop out of 5. Like you can go Kabuko over Kabuko Viego over the 2 Street Demon units, right? You can do Viego over like Veigar, and then you have Kabuko as well on level. So it depends like who you have itemized, how many upgrades you have. But yeah, you play the Kabuko Viego. I still don't think you even play Samira on 9. Samira feels like a 3 cost. Like I think it was like a 3 cost unit. And if like you really have a good reason to play like a 2-star 3 cost, then yeah. But like it's so expensive for what it gives.
Right. Okay. And you've been seeing this do reasonably well.
Yeah, I played a few good games with it. The stats seem to like it. A few players I was with on call seem to like it. So
Do you itemize frontline Mord or Nico? Like, I feel like I haven't really seen Nico 2 itemize that much.
oh, I think Nico 2 is still better than Mora 2 in
Yeah.
this line, especially because you're 5 street. In fact, when I played a 7th street game with Jinx, and Nico was doing a lot better than I would have guessed. I feel like that's the thing with her, is that people don't seem to like her itemized, but the thing is she's always played on 3 street, 2 strat,
Mhm.
3 street, like a few strat. And I think this unit really benefits from the as a tank. She really likes the 7th street demon stats, and so she is a little better. She's not a lot better than people think, but a little better. Like for example, Mort versus Nico in this line, it's a lot worse because you're 2 bruiser 4 techie with Mord versus like you're investing a lot into the you're also a 3 strat, right? Is it 3 strat? Yeah, 3 strat. And so Nico has a lot of stats. I think Mord 2 is still better than Nico 1 though, but Nico 2 better than Mord 2 for sure.
Okay. And like, are you seeing this like win out, or is this kind of more of like a top 4?
The issue with this line is that it's not that easy to be very strong 9. I feel like Kabuko is so much worse, and then Viego can definitely help you push you over the top, but the 9 spike isn't that insane anymore because the 5 coster Kabuko is so much worse. Samira is not a unit, so then it is a little harder to win, I will say. The benefit to this board is really that it's uncontested. If you're playing this board contested, then you're kind of losing the benefit. Yeah, I think also a good percentage of my games are being won by 3-star 4 costs for a while now, I guess. So like that's like another, you have that out in this lane, especially in like an econ portal. You have that out because if it's uncontested and econ, or you have an econ augment, it will very much be in your game plan to 3-star. You can even stay an 8 if like you are really trying to play for win. You have a bunch of copies. I mean, it's I would still think going 9 is better most games, but like if you somehow like have like 5 Ziggs and 50 gold going into like 4-7 with econ portal, then you could maybe consider it.
Okay. And then reroll Rengar. It's Rengar, TF, Vayne, Jhin, like kind of more B tier, and then Fiddle's like very dependent on the artifacts and their emblem. And then hero augment. I had Ross there, but I was looking at the stats, and Ross, I feel like I've done okay with Ross, but the stats don't look that great. I think it was like
Yeah,
a
I don't know
4.5.
what's going on with the raw stats, because every time I see it, it does so well. I don't know what the board is though, because I thought someone do really well with it, but they played 3 random Nitro units with no synergy, and yet they went. Did they go first? No, okay, they went top 3, but I think they dropped it eventually. But they were playing just Divinicorp with the Senna 3. Yeah. But I think this board is good. I think the roster is good. It's probably very matchup dependent, is my guess. But when you have good things to kill in the backline, I think it's good into a lot of the backline reroll boards. Maybe not Veigar, but like you can just randomly kill, even like a TF, even with a gunblade.
Right.
I'm not sure how good it is into Zeri though, because the Zeri might be dodging the.
Yeah, I think I played one where Zeri just kept on dodging Ross.
Yeah, and then you can't do anything. But I think it's good versus like boards with like a few backliners, like Senna, Vayne, and TF. I think the Kane just clears those boards if it's same. If you happen to be same side, there's probably some way to position around it that it has difficulty wrapping, but it doesn't seem that obvious to me how to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Vi is pretty good. Not amazing. I feel like it's a little difficult to win out. But the way I've played it is just into Xayah, like 6 Vanguard, 6 Vanguard, 3 Anima. Maybe there's a better way to play it, but
So Xayah over Vayne.
It just depends, I guess, what you're finding. But yeah, I think Vayne can be fine as well. It just depends on if by the time you finish off the Vi, if you have Vayne items, then yeah, I guess Vayne can be good. If you have but otherwise, yeah, I feel like by default I would think Xayah, like 6 Vanguard, 3 Anima, and then you also can duo the a trio. It'd be trio, but like the Aphelios. Not that you're happy about that, but yeah,
Right.
that's what you trio.
Yeah, Vi seems super good with the backline access against like Vayne and TF.
Yeah, the annoying thing with her is her targeting is it feels so random. Like
Yeah.
all of a sudden she'll just randomly kill the main backline threat, and then you won the fight. Other times she just jumps around, does a whole bunch of nothing, and then dies. So that's why I don't feel like she's that like truly like amazing. But early mid game, she's insane.
Mm-hmm. Like easy top 4.
Yeah. As long as you have like a good number of Vice, you're not sinking all your econ to hit this unit 3-star, and you have like melee items. I think double titans look fine in the look good in the stats, and I played double titans as well. Double titans BT.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think there are many item combos that look fine when I was playing the game and looking at the stats.
Okay. And then 7 Anima. Yeah, I feel like that should still be up here, right?
The stats don't like it as much anymore.
Yeah.
And
But it still has the
I think
highest
this
top
one
4
is,
share.
I think this one is carried by augments again. Like it feels like 6 portal from or 8 portal. It feels like 8 portal from set. What is that? 12. Like where you don't really play it from behind. You don't really play it if you're not really high odds to hit the 2-star. Though the biggest issue with this line I found is your stability on Leona 1 on level 8. And because if you look at it's 5-3 is the issue. Your 5 backline units and 3 frontline. It's possible that not playing. I've seen. Well, I think maybe it's. I forget which. I think it's T Lights. A player not play Marksman on 8. I think they played like a Renekton or the TG, and it looked better to me because your 4/4 just looks better, especially when you're not Leona 2.
Mm-hmm.
When you're Leona 1, that's balance of 3-5 feels the worst. So I think the keys with this line that make it a lot better are when you have Warmogs on Leona. That's like the main one, and then trying to play a 4/4. Oh, sorry, not 4 Vanguard, not 4 Vanguard. But by 4/4, I mean 4 frontline units. So not playing Marksman. I think still 7 Anima, but you don't play Marksman potentially. Yeah. Or at least like thinking about that when you have a frontline issue.
Mm-hmm.
Warmock and hold the Leona 1. Yeah.
Augments? Am I missing any of the key augments?
The what is it called? The ones that gives you stats in the back as units die. Climb the ladder is probably an A. Also, climb the ladder is A. That's probably it. Yeah. I think you have all the good ones though. I don't know if I consider power leveling S, to be honest. Power leveling, every time I've played it, it feels like it gives about a silver augment's worth of. It feels like 2 silvers, I guess. It's not. It's good. I don't know if I call it amazing though. Especially there's so much RNG with the orb drops.
Okay. So best would be like slam in, support Spire, little buddies, something like that. So I guess to your point around Leona 2 being so important, like having an econ augment in the early game is really valuable.
Yeah, I think like tempo with the units and early game and econ to secure hitting the Leona 2 makes it a lot better for sure. Yeah, I don't feel like this is an S tier line. I feel like this is more in my mind like A.
Okay.
Not just yeah, more so like I have a hard time believing it's S when the stats don't like it as much, and I haven't really seen it win out without like insane setup all that often.
Yeah, I guess the top 4 share fell below Exotech Zeri, so it just took some time for people to adjust. Also, Spencer, I don't know if you've looked at his games. Like he's been playing Anima Squad like almost every game.
Yeah, I've been in many games with him. He's the reason I can't think that this line is like bad. Because he pilots it really well, or like he plays it so much and his stats are so good at it that he's rank 1 right now. And is he Anima he's Anima in a lot of his games.
Yeah, I did like I VOD reviewed a bunch, like I think actually almost all of his games in the last 2 days, and it's like 80% plus Anima Squad. But it seems like he's able to tempo it really well because I guess the good thing about Anima Squad early game is you can slam items really flexibly on either Seraphine 2 or 2, and then he's able to ride that to 8 like with a lot of HP, like very consistently.
Yeah, I think what I've also seen is people do, maybe he does this well, he keeps items, you can keep items on Seraphine before finding the Aurora, and it's like not even that bad, stage 4. Like the arc and the AP items. Yeah, it looks like he plays around an itemized just looking at his games, it looks like he has items for Aurora, like good Aurora items every game. And so I assume that means he's like very happy to make AP items early on.
Yeah. But, I haven't really seen much Marksman.
Oh, I think this line sucks because of
Yeah.
Aphelios being so bad. I think if we're gonna play this line, just play 7. I don't see good reason to play this line.
So like this wouldn't even be A tier.
Yeah.
And then I feel like this is more of like a backup to Anima Xayah if you like are contested and happen to hit MF on your roll down.
Yeah, that's how I view the MF line. It's possible that that's undervaluing this unit, but I feel like you play this when you don't have anima upgrades and you're not that rich, and then when you roll on 4-2, you have to click this unit. You can't really not. And then along the way, you should also be clicking Brahms. If you're ever like trying to roll down flexibly, you should be clicking Brahms because, in fact, even when you're playing 7 anima, I'm pretty sure you're always intended to click MF, because if you're trying to play 7 anima, but you find 0 Xayah and you find a quick MF2, I'm pretty sure you're MF. Either you're MF or I could be wrong. Like maybe Spencer, if you watch his rollouts, he doesn't do that. But I'd be surprised if that wasn't a good way to play this line because MF is not bad.
I've also seen like I was just using meta TFT's thing, and it seems like Memory Bank performs pretty well. I don't know if you had to try.
I played it a few times now. The thing is, I usually end up taking this when it's the trait augment hack. And so I'm taking it not necessarily from like an amazing spot, but it's more so from like I'm like, whatever, I may as well take this because it's plus 3 gold and my spot's just okay for it. And so I'm not sure. So you're saying that Zonia's on Aurora looks good?
Yeah, Zonia and the stats on Aurora was like really good. These two. I only put like artifacts and radiance that have significant like good deltas. Although,
Wait,
well,
I'm looking at Aurora's stats and Zonia's doesn't look good on her. Interestingly enough, I'm see maybe I'm doing a different filter. I'm just doing Aurora with Aurora, and then I just look up Zonia, and it's high plus delta.
Oh, I specifically did like I think MF, Aurora, Leona, Silas, Ross probably, or Braum. Like basically kind of like this comp. I guess you're gonna play all of them except for maybe like Elise.
I wouldn't say that necessarily, right? Because you could easily play this line with Nitro.
Oh right. I guess I'm specifically referring to
like
Memory Bank. Like you
Yeah,
probably play Memory Bank with this board, right?
just because you want.
Or you think Nitro could be okay with this line?
Because you take this and it gives you a Jhin early game, right? It gives you a Jhin, and when you're making Aurora items early, you're incentivized to play around Elise, right? And Jhin Elise are good early, and so I feel like there are going to be many games where you play this with Nitro, because otherwise, what are you playing early game? It's like Morgana carry. Like the early game is smooths out so much better if you play it around. If you have like that's when I think you want to take this is actually when you have a Nitro opener.
I
Because
see.
otherwise, how are you playing your early game? You're playing like Vanguard Jhin. It's kind of hard.
What if you
Vanguard.
filter your Aurora and put in 4 Dynamo? Like, and then
Uh,
take a look at what Zonya's looks like.
Oh, at that point now it's like okay. Yeah, I see that. It's like minus 0.03. It doesn't look amazing though. It just looks okay. Minus 0.03.
Because there's probably a lot of times where people just play like a naked Aurora, right?
What does-
And I guess you can also
I-
filter 3 item Aurora.
Yeah, with 3 items it starts to look a little. Yeah, I'm not super convinced that this line is amazing. But when I'm not convinced that this augment is that good.
Okay.
From like middling spots. Looking at stats briefly now and having played it a few times, maybe from like good spots, I can see it being okay. But I don't think that this augment is like, oh, I don't have many good options. I saw this augment. This is a good augment. I will fix my spot that's mid. I don't think so. I feel like, especially because I don't think Zonix is that insane on this unit. Like the way she doesn't like always 1v and very well. She doesn't really need Zonias like as the fight is going on. Like she's
Mhm.
hiding in the back. So I feel like it doesn't make that like if anything, I think this is good. I think I've taken this. No, that's not true. I think I got Zonias on a Viego, or I've taken this and then I've removed it and put it on Viego. I think that's what I did.
Mm.
And that to me, this I don't want Viego as much as Aurora because it also gives a lot of resistance.
Oh, right. Oh. All right, and then Nitro Jhin. I feel like this is really dependent on the Exo item, Full
Yeah, this one more
Stabilizer,
so.
and Hollow Bow.
I would view this one as also joined together with the Nidalee Naafiri line. Because you're playing Naafiri as well on this board often on level 6, right? Level
Yeah,
6.
this.
Level 6, level 7. Yeah, you can fit the whole board on 7 with Elise. Well, I guess 7 just gives you the Sedge / Jack. So you can fit it with on 6. And with tempo or reroll augment, I feel like the having a melee carry, like the Naafiri can run over a bunch of boards. So it's like when you have melee items and you have like stable pulse stabilizer, you can play it like one melee and Jhin. So either you're itemizing. I think the Nidalee one is a lot worse. Nidalee, I think, is more so like a TG. You can try it. I've seen it do okay in some games. I played it one game. I kind of low rolled it, so it didn't go as well. But like where you go like the Hodge JG Titans kind of build on Nidalee.
Mhm.
But I think the Naafiri one, Naafiri Jhin, is a little better. And I think it's not bad to play when you have like melee item opener and Rengar looks fucked and like there's nothing else to play with melee item opener. But like you have tempo. Naafiri is very good as a unit early mid. I will say that.
Okay. I guess I haven't really. Feel like I've put like a TG on Naafiri, but never intentionally itemized Naafiri.
You can itemize her for you can like attempt like pivot her into executioner and or Zed. It's one way to go into those lines because it's a very good melee item holder. It's not very straightforward to make those pivots, but you can. There are many games that I 100 streak with Naafiri.
Oh, interesting. Usually playing around Nitro. Early game.
Yeah, it's just some mix of Nitro Exo if you're playing like Tempo and Naafiri.
Okay. And if you
If
don't
you're
have
doing
the
that, you have to really be sure that people are not contesting Rengar. Is the thing.
right, and if for some reason you hit MF early and you're running low on Jins, you could just play Nitro MF. This one tempo it.
Yeah, I can see that. I don't. My issue with this line is I feel like the DPS is not that amazing until you hit Aurora because you're not playing Syndicate.
Mm-hmm.
But I do think if you have elite items or you have some way to believe you're gonna hit at least 3, that's when this line tends to pop off. Yeah, I think this line feels worse on level 8 than the other lines because your DPS is a mix between Elise 2 typically and MF
Mm-hmm.
and just more units. So yeah, it lacks a bit of deep. But I think if you have HP, then you can get to either Aurora or Elise 3 by stage 5. Then I think his life's not that bad.
Okay. And then Veigar Reroll. It seems like this is pretty augment dependent.
Yeah, this one I'm still not sure. Like the true. I feel like there are many boards that work with Veigar, so you have to be pretty flexible in my mind. Like I haven't done a super deep dive in the stats in a while now, but I feel like a lot of it's spot dependent because there are all these augments that change what you want to play. There's the cyber boss one, and then there's also the cognitive. There's the one that gives you AP as you kill units, which is like interesting because it makes you want to play techie, but you don't really need to play that vertical on techie because you already get all these AP stats with takedown. And then you also want to play the ones you have early potentially because you're scaling, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you could also even play Nitro. I think there also was a time when like Bastion vertical was good on this, but that was more so in PvE. So there are many variants of playing it. The other thing is Artifact. I think this unit is very good with
Right. Mana Zane.
Yeah, Mana Zane. And then depending on lobby, you can probably imagine. And I think the stats look good on this as well. Fishbones being good.
Oh,
I don't think it's
Fishbones.
amazing. I don't think it's amazing, but it's last I checked, it was good. Let me see. Let me double check that. Pretty sure it was good though. Yeah, it's good. Like minus 0.3.
Okay. Would you play it with Lichbane?
The stats are fine on it. I think I've done it and it went okay. I don't think I had Lichbane from early game though. I think I dropped it mid. I think I took a Portable Forge 3 too. But I think when you have Lichbane, you probably really want double cast. You like blue buff Nasher probably. Blue buff Nasher or blue buff Shojin, one of those. And it seemed fine.
Okay. Then I think I had Ross. Because feels like it's solid, but not as good as Vibe. I mean, I guess if you can hit everything ahead of tempo, then it can do well.
Yeah, I've seen people hit late with this even and it still was okay. But yeah, the one thing is, I guess this Ross is not as contested anymore. Now that people aren't playing for Vanguard as much, but yeah, I feel like there's some games where people like I guess the Zed board plays Ross, but yeah, as a melee unit, you definitely want to hit this early.
And I feel like more people are starting to play Vayne. Vayne plays this.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, then it becomes harder.
Okay, so then these are like on my tier list for holds. Seem reasonable to you?
I don't know if I would put Silas Seraphine like truly higher than Jax here.
Okay, I only
feel
put
like-
this up here because I see Spence. Well, I partially created this tier list through watching Spencer and T-Lights the last like couple days, and Spencer every game is just playing this.
Oh, I think they're good holds. I'm not convinced that. I guess Jax is such a mid unit, but yeah, it's not far off. I think from what's in my mind. I just don't know if I truly consider them in a full higher tier than Jax. When I feel like Nitro / Exo is a better in my mind. It's a better line than Anima eventually, especially when it's equally or like less equally contested. Usually it's going to be more contested though. I don't view Zyra as B tier. I view Zyra as almost F tier. If I'm being honest. Yeah, I feel like those those 7 units that you have from S higher, from A higher, feel basically like 1 tier. I feel like I just do Jax, Poppy, Vi, Silas, Seraphine, Kindred, Nidalee as like hold, and then the other 6 are just don't hold. And I just hold. I feel like my tier lists for one class are just hold and don't hold.
Okay.
Yeah, unless it's like a 2-star. I'm down to hold like a 2-star Mundo or there's just a tempo off something. But usually it's hard to even have those units make your board.
All right. So something like that.
Yeah, I feel like this to me is how it feels the game is played right now.
Okay. And then 2 costs.
Yeah, I agree that the Exo guys are really high up. I also agree that the Anima ones are high. LeBlanc's always S. TF is like S if you have Rod Bow.
Right.
I think. Yeah, I think Veigar is about A. And Gross is also about A. Yeah, I think I'm on board with this. This looks about where I'm at as well. As I'm thinking about, yeah.
Okay. And then 3 costs.
Rengar definitely S. The 2 guys definitely S. Yeah, I guess Mord is basically S. Huh? I'm just thinking about Mord.
I guess
Yeah,
it
'cause
depends on an exo check, right?
Yeah, I feel like the 3 Exo spike is pretty big when you have a good. So I think when you have the Mord, then the frontline ones are also pretty good early game. Like the shield one is pretty good on him.
In fact, you'd
Even early
prefer
game.
the shield one if you're trying tempo, right?
Yeah, over the backline ones if you have a Mord box. Yeah, I think Elise is about A. I don't know if I consider Varus A. I haven't tried playing around. I haven't seen Varus stage 2 do amazing, nor have I played around him much stage 2.
Yeah. I kind of had him lower, but then I was thinking because both Mord and Rengar are up there, like if you find either of those, like you probably wouldn't mind a Varus. But naked, yeah, I agree.
The board is so expensive. If you're going Rengar and Varus or Mort and Varus, you must 5 streak, or I feel like your game is over if you're holding those 2-3 costs. That's it.
Yeah.
Holding 2-3 costs is just like from 2-1. It's like you better 3 streak, 5 streak, sorry. And then the Varus doesn't even do that much on either board. He's just 3 gold that activates a synergy. Because you're never really itemizing him with AP items early game. If you are, you're putting like 80 items on him, and then you're just like, I'm pretty sure Jhin is better. Senna, is Senna A tier? I feel like I'm not
I
sure.
guess
if
he's
Senna-
dependent on whether you're playing around Vayne, and if you're not, then probably not.
Yeah, and even when you are playing around Vayne, like yeah, you can put on the board and it does stuff, but it also feels expensive because like you have 5 gold invested into your just backline, and then you still need frontline. I'm not convinced Senna is A. If anything, I feel like Jinx is like a more. How do I put this? It like helps with your direction more when you have it. Like when you drop a Senna, you're like, I might be playing Vayne, but this is not the Vayne. So it's like it's not really direction. Whereas when you drop a Jinx, you can easily say like, I have a Jinx, now I can angle like a Jinx / Street Demon line. And so I feel like Jinx gives more direction than Senna. And so I almost have Jinx like in a higher tier, even though actually I think Jinx is reasonable as a unit early game. Marksman's good.
Yeah, T-Lights was consistently holding Jinx. I just noticed that he was consistently holding Jinx, and like I think 3 games I saw him holding Jinx in stage 1, but only played her once and didn't itemize her.
Was he playing around like a Marksman, like a
I think he's just playing around Street Demon.
Gotcha. Yeah, I think when you have 80 items, this unit's good, and then Street Demon, like you have a Mundo too randomly. I feel like that opener is pretty good.
So like if you're playing or if you are actually itemizing Jinx, like Shojin would be good and then lead into like just Brand. But if you slam AD, then you're probably going towards what, Xayah?
Oh, I think if you're making 80 items on her, yeah, you're either going towards Xayah or you play. I don't. If you have tempo, I don't think 7th Street 80 items Jinx is bad. Jinx is always uncontested.
Oh, you can just keep it on
play
her and then still play
You
Brand.
just 3-star on 8. Right? You roll an 8 for Nico 2, Brand 2, Jinx 3.
Hmm.
You're like trio carry, 7th Street. I played that with her after that game. I think I took second that game. Lost to Rengar. You never beat anyway. Yeah, I think that board felt pretty good. I like that the tempo. I think you need to have a lot of the Jinxes early though. Otherwise, it's hard to convince yourself you're going to 3-star the Jinx on 8. It's possible you could even roll on 7 on this board, but I'm not sure. Because you roll on 7, your odds for Brand are fucked. Because the +1 is kind of mid anyway on 8 with 7th Street with this board. Because you don't really care that much about Marksman. And I think because you're 7th Street and you already have so much AD.
Yeah, I can buy that. I mean, the game I was trying to play around Rengar was exactly that. Hit Brand 2 on 7 and hit like 1 Nico.
Yeah. Then it's like, what the level is like, well, what am I even playing here?
Especially if Brand and Nico are uncontested, like, and other people are pulling more costs out of the pool, like, then you have a pretty decent shot hitting Jinx 3 and your Brands and Nikos.
Yeah. You just lose some tempo, I guess, because like leveling for, I think what we played was Gragas 2/Mord 2. It adds a lot to your front line for sure. But it's like, while it's not an amazing synergy, it's not nothing either.
So it's like kind of playing around a hybrid version of this. Oh wait, you don't.
Yeah,
you don't
with 80
have...
items. Yeah, because with 80 items now it's like Ziggs Jinx, right? And instead of Ziggs Brand, you're Ziggs Jinx. And like there are games where your Ziggs Brand and your Ziggs is 1-star for a bit. And you can think of if your Brand Jinx, your Jinx 2 is like a Ziggs 1.5. Right? And then your Jinx 3 is a higher cap than Ziggs 2. So it's like this interesting tempo where you're like slightly weaker, but you're not as weak as a 1-star Ziggs, and then eventually your cap's a little higher.
So you'd swap out the Veigar for a Marksman
On 8.
I guess you
well,
want the Cyber boss. So just no Marksman.
No. Sorry, I'm meaning that you don't play Ziggs when you play Jinx.
Oh, okay. Swap out these two. Okay.
You're typically 7th Street when you're playing Jinx Brand.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, I think if you don't have brand items, then you could probably consider. You probably really try to make brand items when you're playing this unit, but if you don't have brand items, then you probably consider Marksman at that point. If you're like several 80 items and you don't want to play Samira, usually you probably can go like some Marksman Street Demon board. I think that's probably less common, but where you go like a Jinx and maybe Xayah duo or something, and you're just going like shallow on Street Demon, like Strategist Street Demon. And like, yeah, I think that can definitely happen though. If you like you're itemizing Jinx, and then your wolves drops give you like swords and bows again, then it's like, well, then you're not really meant to play around Brand at that point.
Right. How do the rest of these look?
Fiddle feels so like it depends on your augment. I have a really hard time justifying hold. I think this guy I only really hold if I've already forced to hold like an Alistar 2 or what are the bruiser 2 stars or pairs, and my components look good for this guy, specifically raw tier. I don't consider cloak or sword good for this guy, or having a BT, because I think BT is fake on this guy.
Mhm.
So it would be things like Golden Gala. So I know that Golden Gala or Prismatic Preludes, because you get Living Forge or Portable Forge with higher odds, or Bruiser +1, Cooking Pot, and then and the Fiddle and Broad Tier. I think when I have all those, then I'm like, okay, sure, I must hold this guy. But I think in every other scenario, it's like you can hold him, and you're speculatively like, well, if I hit Portable Forge, it's good, but like, what are your odds of really hitting it? I feel like it's not that good that you're really willing to like stack holding 3 other units.
Mhm.
I think
Okay.
when your one cost holds are all the not hold units, then I'm down. That is what I'll say. He feels like sure you can hold him over all the trash in the one cost tier.
Right. Okay.
Braum, I feel like Braum is more so like a TF check.
Right.
Unless you're like really trying to tempo around something. I feel like he's not a bad unit. He's basically like Loris from last set in my mind. But
Mhm.
like he's a good tank, but like how often are you really holding Loris? Interestingly enough, it's when you had TF before and you could hold him, and now it's the same. Except yeah, he's just back to Braum now instead of having this weird name. J4. Oh, I think J4 actually activates Vayne a lot more than Senna.
Right.
So I
Okay.
feel like if we're saying, I feel like if anything, J4 is a better hold than Senna when you're playing around Vayne, because it gives you Vanguard and Slayer for your Street Demon. For your Anima board with Vayne.
Mhm. So would you put J4 like A tier, B tier?
Mm, he's like Vayne tier. He's like if you're playing Vayne, you hold. If you're not playing Vayne, you don't hold.
Okay.
Is how I feel.
So I'll put him B tier. Is basically same kind of thing as Braum.
Yeah, it'd be the same as Braum. I think Gragas is a good unit. It's just hard to play him. But
Yeah.
I think if you're trying to tempo, he can be good. He's expensive, but yeah, he's like Loris. I guess I see he's fine. He's like Loris, but slash Braum, but like activates even fewer synergies.
Because when are you really playing it? Like you're playing it with
It'd be like
this
the Street
board?
Demon Mundo 2. It's like Mundo
Oh,
2.
Street Team and Mundo 2. Okay.
Yeah. It'd be like but then usually it's like Mundo. It's very specific. It's like Jinx boards, but then it's so expensive you have to 5 streaks. Yeah, it's okay. I can see C tier. It's fine. And then Yumi is like, it's like if you really need an Anima squad unit, then you hold. Otherwise, like, yeah, I'm not down to hold this unit.
So expensive. And there are so many other Anima Squad units.
Yeah, I'm down to sell this usually as well. Oh, the other one thing I will say is because of how good Nidalee and Yumi are, I wouldn't sleep on her as a like amp stacker, because amp, like, I feel like these units have such high win streak potential and upgrades and or items, even the Fury 1, that usually you're if you don't have Nitro / you have open slots, it's gonna be Yumi a lot of the time.
And this is you're itemizing Nidalee not with melee items? Or this is with the intent of playing around Nidalee or Rengar and Nefiri, I guess.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, either you're playing around them to stay on them, or you can stay on them, right? You can play Nitro, you can
Right.
play or the Exo Nitro
This
melee
one.
board. Yeah, you can play that, but if not, then yeah, then to the other melee lines.
Okay. Okay, cool. Anything I'm missing?
Let me on the. I feel like, are we still short on anything reroll wise? I feel like I've seen lobbies lately where I played it. No, I think that's fine. I think Annie is so bad. The stat, like, historically bad almost.
Yeah.
Like and Annie and Samira are like the B patches. I mean, it's made the patch better, I think. Let me see if there's anything. I don't think so.
I guess LeBlanc 3 with Mana Zane and the stats look really good. I've never tried it.
It's just maybe you open Mana Zane. I've never gotten tried. I've played a long 3 on a too much value board.
Mhm.
I'm not even sure if that board is really that good. I
With
played on DD
Veigar?
before. Yeah, it's like Veigar, Echo, Shyvana, LeBlanc. The thing is, you need a million tiers because you're like trying to duo LeBlanc, Veigar.
This one?
Yeah. This board, and I'm not sure how real this. But that one you put Shyvana on the board. Shyvana Poppy.
Wanna be over.
Because you're rolling on 6, right? You can't really
Right.
play brand. You can't really guarantee like brand Ziggs. Sorry, brand brand Ziggs. So you're playing around Shyvana Poppy, and typically you will 3-star them, and then at that point you're usually staying on them. But this is more of a too much value board.
So the best possible like opener for this would be like the artifact encounter. You get a Mana Zane and you get a too much value.
Yeah, something like that. Then yeah. Then I think this starts to look quite appealing.
This seems like very, very conditional, and you need tiers. Like it's like
artifact anvil. Sorry, port. What is it? Anvil portal can also be okay with it. I think. Well, you're obviously still praying that you hit the tiers on
and
that.
like the hacked item components. Like there's so many conditions needed.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Actually, the hacked item components are basically anvils. They're better anvils even.
Okay. Yeah, I feel like doing this process, especially the unit tiers, and then like I feel like this has helped me get a holistic game plan. Kind of like what you were doing with me to prep for the previous tournaments. I feel like I've gotten a much better process in place. So like, because this is like the meta game layer, right? It's like how to understand what all the lines are. So then when you're doing line selection and like slamming items, like you're not just like kind of slamming with no idea what you're doing, which I think was what I was doing in the past.
Yeah, you need this. You need this for sure. You need this, and then you also, I think the unit tier list also really helps for sure.
Right.
To help steer your early game.
Okay. So this matches kind of your assessment of the game plan, which I think looking at this high level, it's pretty much like, I mean, Rengar seems very dominant. Otherwise, Rageblade Slam is amazing because there's just so much Rageblade users. And then like AD seems like pretty strong. If you're uncontested, the brand angle that we talked about. The rest of like these are like very conditional. And then Cypher, like Zed.
I'm just looking at so I think I would almost remove Aphelios from here. I feel like unless you're trying to like say that those are the items that go on him, I feel like this guy is so bad.
Yeah, I mainly put him here as like a backup to like basically for some reason you want to go either Vayne or TF and they're contested. Then you're trying to go Zeri and she's contested, and then you're like, okay, if I really have to, I'll go Aphelios.
Oh, I'm pretty sure you still go Xayah if you're a Rageblade.
Oh, you
like,
just put Rageblade on Xayah instead.
The stats don't even hate it that much. Like, yes, the stats, like if you're to say strictly speaking, like it's a better item on Aphelios than it is on Xayah. Like in terms of if you're playing, but you can also just not play around Aphelios. And like the stats it's not abysmal on Xayah. It's like a 0, which is not even bad.
Okay, so just never play around Aphelios. I have not actually played Aphelios. I was just like in the event that all of those conditions were true. But yeah, I agree. Just play around Xayah.
You just play around Xayah and you Rageblade it, and then if you get a Reforger later on and you get like a bunch of you get 80 items, you can replace it. But like I don't think like Aphelios is just the biggest waste of gold. Even like trying to stabilize on level on stage 4, I don't think you're even meant to buy it.
Okay.
How
much Jhin are you playing? Like, or not much?
Reroll Jhin, almost never. I'm playing a lot of Jhin on my board. Jhin 2, I feel like is so good.
So you're mainly using it to tempo, not to reroll.
Oh, I tempo and keep it. So I'll just play like Zeri.
Right.
Zeri Jhin duo basically, and the Nitro 7 Exo board. I think my last end games I played a ton of Zeri. and Jhin is holding items oftentimes in that line. That board can cap high. You can win because there's so many good augments. There are way too many good augments, and then Garen really spikes your board on. I just to play him on 8, you kind of need a spat, but without a spat, you get him on 9. I think it's more so an econ portal, but yeah, he can give you Marksman on Zeri. He can give you Exo on him with the shield item is insane. Because he shields naturally, right? But yeah. But
Like there's
Jhin
so many
holding
5 costs on this that could be good, right? Like these in the stats at least, this is what showed up.
yeah, there's so many good stuff you can put. And then what I like with Jhin Zeri is that you just make a bunch of 80 items. It doesn't even matter. I.e. Last Whisper, DB, like, and then eventually you'll have holders for both. You only need one Rage Blade to have the Zeri line work out, right? And like if you get stuck on no Rage Blade stage 4, but you have 380 items, it doesn't even really matter all that much. Your stage 4 is a little weaker, but as long as you hit the Rage Blade by like 4-7 and you're not like 1 life, which you shouldn't be, you're playing this line from the reasonable spot, you're still fine to play a reasonable, take a good placement.
Okay. What if you have both flux capacitor and pulse? Are you just putting them both here, or because like Jhin with his ability kind of spreads the execute a little bit better? Like, what's your thought on how to spread those items?
I think it should usually be fairly obvious for your components, because if you're usually like, you'll see your items are good for Zeri or good for Jhin, right? Like your single Rage Blade and then no other good Zeri items, then I'm down to put both on Zeri. Because I don't think, like, if you're making an IE, for example, I don't think IE is that amazing with. I guess it gives you bonus stats. Now I'm like second guessing myself. I was thinking that if you have IE, then you give crit. You can give crit to both units. But I do agree that the execute is pretty good. Let me just see Zeri, and let's say you have the flux item on her. Does this thing actually look good in the delta? But pulse, yeah, it looks good. Let me exclude like exo spat or something. Yeah, it looks good. It probably just depends on what the other items are. Because like typically what's gonna happen when I play this line is you have Last Whisper on Jhin, and then when you have Last Whisper on Jhin, you want to get glove value, right? And then at that point, the pulse stabilizer gives you glove value on his Last Whisper.
Okay, and you're itemizing Jhin 2 over Varus 2 because Varus 2 doesn't have the executioner.
Oh, I don't know how good this 7 exo really is on 8. I feel like I view the Nitro Ward is better. Unless you really, really need the third exo item. That's when I think 7 exo is. I think 7 exo is like, I don't really want to play this, but I have pulse stabilizer or flux. More so flux. I have flux as my third one, so I'm forced to play 7 exo. And I'm not very happy about it. But
How late are you willing to start Nitro then?
Oh, I think this thing even late is not even bad, because even if you
like even on your stage 4 roll down.
Oh no! At that point, I think it's a bit late. At that point, I think it's late. I think you want it on like stage 3, at the latest. Because it still gives you like about a ZZ rot, which like a gold which is a gold augment, right?
Right.
There's a lot, and it's not even that hard. Like Elise does something for your board. The Shyvana is replacing the Jax, and you get and Kindred is a really good trade bot for that board. I don't play it around 4 Nitro really, because I feel like you don't lack DPS. So I feel like Nidalee is so bad that
yeah, on 8 it's take this out for one of these pairs. Usually this 5 exo. I guess these are like kind of 5 cost dependent.
Yeah. Usually it's more than a Fury for me, or usually more than a Fury. With Bastion Spat, you can play from tower defense or whatever. You can play, or even the Spat itself from like branching out. You can play 4 Bastion.